Yo, what's going on, y'all? It's your boy So and welcome back to the channel. Make sure you're hitting that like, comment, and subscribe button, and more importantly, hit that notification button. That way you guys get notified when we drop hits like this. This week on OnlyFans, Joel and I are breaking down the Miami Dolphins' victory on the road 15-10 as they defeat the New England Patriots. Sloppy play, but they made it happen and walked away with the dub, which was the most important thing. It's time to take a ride, y'all. Let's go!
Fans up in the building, rep the gear from toe to ceiling. 305 stays on the brim, by 95 we popping wheelies. On the way out to the rock, time to see the trio fly. OBJ, Tyreek, and Waddle, speed and swag solidifies. Tools, Babby in the pocket, got my D coordinating. With the Weaver operating, on the sideline formulating. Strategizing for that dub, let's get A-Train on the track. Chubbs and Ramsey, Phillips healthy, boy, we bout to crack some backs. Time to change the narrative, F off with all due respect. Criticism at its finest, break the cycle down the stretch. Top dog offense in the league, let's keep it going postseason. Bring that heat in cold weather, that's a Dade County reason. OnlyFans, presented by Sports with Soso. Presented by Sports with Soso.
What's going on, y'all? Your boy So here with my dog Joel, as always. Coming to you live from Miami, where we fight hurricanes all the time. Shout out to the Miami Hurricanes.
I wonder if it's coming up, like in the audio, like the rain that's coming down right now. But
If it is, put some rain comments in the comments.
yeah, I mean, do we got anybody from like Tampa, the Gulf Coast watching right now? Please stay safe. Yeah, man, this is looking a little scary right now with this hurricane.
It's looking rough. You know what I'm saying? Hopefully we don't get the worst of it. And we hope that all of our peoples up in Florida, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. That Panhandle area stay safe.
Just got hit with one.
Yeah, dude, that whole area.
And there's still supposedly another one coming and developing.
Hurricane season, though. When the Canes are undefeated, it means it's hurricane season, dog.
Sheesh. Different kind of show, though. Only Canes. That's in development.
Coming soon. But if we're talking about ugliness, right? That definitely fits the theme of this episode, right? Because the Dolphins walked away with a win. It was ugly, but they got the win, 15-10 up in New England.
Yeah.
Tyler Huntley starting it again for the second week. Maybe looked a little bit better, maybe. But for me, it was a tale of two halves, right? The first half was completely forgettable. Tons of mistakes, tons of errors. Special teams lacking yet again. I can't believe we haven't fired that special teams coach yet. But it's just been an ugly display of what this offense could have been, was supposed to be, should be looking like. It was pretty much pathetic, in my opinion, dog. You know what I mean? That first half was pathetic because we're going up against, in all fairness, right, an inferior team in terms of talent to us. And we're playing to their level, which is not acceptable, dog. It's not acceptable.
I mean, right out of the jump, not even. They played above our level to start the game. They came out and scored. They had just benched Ramondre Stevenson, which for fantasy purposes is pretty interesting. And then he comes out and actually scores to start the game.
Yeah.
So it's like, all right, this is something we got to make sure we can stop and try to control their run game. And we got to try to develop our own. And I think that, for me, is, if I have one thought on this game, the biggest takeaway that I had was an improvement in the run game overall. We saw Achane go down early. He got potentially concussed, out for concussion-like symptoms.
Well, he did get a concussion for sure. You know what I mean? Because they checked him, and that's the reason they put him in the blue tent, and that's the reason they took him straight to the locker room.
Yep. But then we saw Raheem Mostert come back. Solid performance from Raheem Mostert and the rookie, Jalen Wright. Both of them, I think, combined for like 31, 32 touches on the ground.
160 yards plus between both of them.
So, that's production in the run game that we haven't seen since Tua's gone down, something that we've been talking about. Yeah. We need to improve on to be able to give way to the play actions and the other things that we want to do with our playmakers. So
for sure.
That was my one big takeaway, positive takeaway from the game.
For sure. And if we look at, again, just to focus on the first half for this part of the show, right, like Tyler Huntley did not play well. He had the interception that led to that touchdown, right, that Stevenson got. And
early
it was like,
in the game, yep.
Yeah, and it was like, okay, dude, you have one job. Your job is not to initiate offense. Your job is not to make the offense look amazing. Your job is not to throw 60-yard bombs. Your job is to not turn over the ball, right? Because that's what game manager is at this point, and that's what he is. So to see him get that turnover so quickly in the game, so early in the game, it kind of killed any chance that we had of getting positive momentum to start the game, right? And then it was like, well, now we just have to. It felt like we got knocked down. We had to stand back up, and it's like now we got to defend ourselves for the next 6 rounds, right? And that's what it was heading into halftime. And again, I don't want to harp on special teams, but fuck, it's been incredibly poor, dog. Incredibly poor. Jason Sanders, obviously, this is going to be his last season with the Dolphins, right?
Another missed field goal.
Another missed field goal for basically a chip shot, because a 40-yarder now is considered a chip shot, right? And it's just a lack of a standard that he should be having for himself, you know?
Yeah, I know. I knew you were going to be fired up about this one.
Dog,
I was waiting for this conversation.
Bro, we're golfing. I'm watching it, and it's like, I got to go hit a golf ball now, but all I want to do is punch Jason Sanders in his face. That's all I want to do, dog. He'll probably kick my ass because he's a big kicker. He's not a small guy, right? But still, it's like, fuck, dude. One job. Now, the other one can't be on him, right?
Sure.
It was a botched snap, a botched hold. But again,
and I'm not mad at that one.
I'm mad at that because that's special teams, dog. Again, those guys are very specific for that role. It's not like we have you know what I mean? Like most times than not, a team has a special holder, a special center, you know what I mean? Like a special guard. Like those things are set up to be a specific thing so that you get continuity.
Yeah.
And for that mistake to happen on the road, and that it's not even like that place was going loud, like crazy, or it was crazy loud, and they were like, oh, dude,
definitely
that crowd wasn't even into that game of how bad it was. You guys cannot have those mistakes because this team right now is not good enough to try to overcome multiple mistakes. 1, 2, maybe 3, but 4, 5, 6. Now we're killing ourselves.
But if I can, let me defend Tyler Huntley just a little bit.
Okay,
just a little bit. Because, yeah, he had that early interception, and it sets up their score and all that. But if you count that out, you know, that interception, he goes 18 for 31, 194 yards passing. Rating 63%, not great. But at the very least, bro, when it came down to it in the second half, he did make enough plays, and he didn't make the mistakes that he made early on.
For sure.
That ultimately led to the game-winning drive for us.
Yeah, you got to give him credit for for having a better second half, right? Yeah. And if we're talking about like what changed in the second half, it really comes down to Mike McDaniels, right? Because Mike McDaniels is looking at the situation and he's going, our defense is playing well, right? They're doing our thing. We're holding this bad offense in check, and the only time they score is because the offense did the mistake of giving them the ball, right? Offensively, we can't get anything going, and special teams, I can't rely on it now. What's the one thing that I can do or turn to, right, that can have an impact on the game where it changes it to our favor? That's running the ball. Time of possession. How long you can keep the defense out there and give your defense a rest, right? That was a big thing. There were plenty of times where the Patriots were shooting themselves in the foot because they're having a penalty. It's 3rd and 6, and they'll have a penalty. All start, moving back 5 yards. Now it's 3rd and 11. Way harder for Jacoby to Brissett to get that off,
the
right?
amount of penalties, man,
that they had on that side. Again, that's how you know there's a big gap between both teams. Like that team is really bad. They're not disciplined, and we were playing at that level in the first half. Second half, when we started to play better, it came because Mike McDaniel said, "I need to change it," and the change is the running game. And thank God he made that change because it has to show his development as a coach, for his development as a coach, that I can be flexible on the fly. Not week to week flexible, right? Because you do that kind of anyways based on your opponent, but on the fly. What's not working? Tyler Huntley can't get comfortable. This isn't working. Our wide receivers aren't making too many plays. All right, let's run the rock. And we started seeing runs on 1st and 2nd downs back to back to make that 3rd down play. If and when Tyler had to throw it, he could complete a 6-yard pass, a 7-yard pass. Now, if you ask him to complete a 15-yard pass, that might be a little bit more difficult.
He was able to connect with Tyreek in a couple of those like little dig routes downfield, 10, 15-yard. He would just come right back and sit in the zone, and he was making the throw. You know, he like I said, if we really dissect it, you know, it wasn't great by any means.
Right.
You know what I mean? For a quarterback, he almost gave away one late at the end of the game there that Tyreek had to play defender on, kind of missed him, or where he had him early in the route. You know, we can nitpick and say all we want, but you got to keep in mind, man, you got to get the context of this quarterback. And he's only been with the team now for, 3 weeks?
Right.
You know, starting now 2 games, and he's 500 right now with the organization as a starting quarterback. So That's why I want to at least give him that. So maybe that carries into the next game. My good
I
juju
hope.
after the bye week, kind of like my good juju from last week's. One silver lining that we had was our defense.
Yeah.
And they played outstanding this week, man. And that's really what kept us in this game
For sure.
at the end of the day.
For sure. And I think we have to point out one guy in specific, right? And this is a guy who's gotten a lot of criticism lately because of the price tag above his head. That's Jalen Ramsey. I felt like Jalen Ramsey brought the attitude for the defense that day. He was able to get in the face of his opponent, pass deflections, led the team with 2 that day, was really great in coverage, shutting down first and second options, right? Forcing the Patriots to struggle. And I think that when you're as vocal as he is on the floor, on the field, and in the locker room and all that stuff, you have to play a certain way. And that's the type of Jalen Ramsey that, has to show up every week, right? Because the defense feeds off of that. And we saw other guys, especially in the defensive back, that Hay kid, he makes a couple of plays, got a important pass deflection, and had, I think, 4 tackles. I'm going to look it up here. No, 9 tackles.
Jeez.
Right? Again, played well because of how great Jalen Ramsey was playing. And we also have to point out Javon Holland, right? Javon Holland had another great game in the secondary, really laid some big hits and was pretty much really good in coverage. We didn't get beat once downfield, which was awesome. But the downside to that is, for a guy who's pretty much playing for his next contract, having his injury with the hand that we saw, it could affect him in the long run. And I wonder how long is it gonna take him to come back, and how do we react to that loss?
Well, we got to look at the severity of it. And I think I saw that it's a broken bone.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if it's something that he can come back, like put a club on. We've seen players in the past just kind of wrap it up and just play like that, just bat the ball out of the sky anyways. You're not really going for the interception at that point. Or it might be something that takes him out for longer. So It sucks. To lose 2 members of our secondary, not only is Javon Holland, but we also lose Kendall Fuller. He also went down too, which is why I forget his name, got all the play time.
May. May had 9 total tackles, like I said, he had 5 solo tackles.
Because Fuller went out, we had a couple of losses, but even with that, we still managed to get the job done and get it done when it counted. They even had a shot at the end of the game, and we still played big.
Yeah, and a lot of that had to do, one of them, on the second one, the first one that they caught, but his foot went out of bounds. The second one,
about that.
I'm going to talk to you, but the second one was Jalen Ramsey, and he was the one who actually jumped up and was closest to the ball,
right?
Showing you how aggressive that guy was playing that day on Sunday against the Patriots. That touchdown,
Yeah, going back to that, it was to Jalen Polk.
Yes.
Middle of the end zone. Jacoby throws a high pass.
Broken coverage.
He gets 1 foot down completely, and then the other foot.
Toe touched first. The heel came out of bounds.
Is that not inbound?
That's not inbound. So I was listening to the live television broadcast, and I had the radio on the speaker just in case they say something extra. And the way that they explain it is that in order for it to be a full catch, you have to have both or all parts of your foot come in. So if he landed on his toe and he came down with his heel and then fell out of bounds inside the end zone, he would have got a touchdown.
Wow.
But the fact that his heel landed, therefore completing his step out of bounds, they didn't give it to him.
That was crazy. I saw that, and it was a hell of a grab, and I was like, damn, there goes that.
Yeah.
But they called it back, and I was like, we got this.
And even still, if we looked at that whole last 2 minutes, right, the Dolphins take the lead. We run the ball like 8 times consecutively down the Patriots' throat. With Alec Ingold finally getting the touchdown, right, on the 1-yard run, which was great because you mentioned it before we started recording, like he had done a lot of the work in that drive. Pass blocking, run blocking, end around blocking. Like this dude really puts in the work. And having met Alec personally through his mindset group, which I think they're going to do something now in October. We'll post it on our Instagram. I know how hard he works at being mentally strong, and you have to be able to be that mentally strong to succeed in that drive over and over and over again. That guy had, if there's such a thing as a perfect drive for a fullback, that was it.
Yeah.
And it made the difference in the game, right? Like it was the touchdown that ended up giving us the lead, and we didn't relinquish it, even though we went for the 2-point attempt and didn't get it. Because again, Huntley is just not a creator. And there was something that you touched on too, bro. You mentioned that he looked a little hesitant, right? And on that 2-point conversion, he had a guy, but he was like in the middle of throwing it and then like kind of threw it. And it's like you could just tell that he's not comfortable, right? So you can't really put too much on his shoulders. And I think McDaniel did a great job of alleviating that possibility of stress by running that ball on that drive. We tried to do it again to kill the clock, and it didn't work. And then which gave the Patriots ball around our 35 or 40, right? Because they returned it. And it was like, all right, hold your breath time. And we had to hold our breath and see how the Dolphins can end up this drive. And thankfully, the defense did enough. The pressure on Jacoby Brissett was immense on those last 2 drives.
Yeah.
I felt like every time he was getting ready to throw the ball, we had a defender in his face, which was clutch. But I don't know how sustainable that type of play is, right? Calais Campbell was gassed yesterday for all intents and purposes. The 38-year-old football player that we're asking to play, one of the hardest positions on defense and in the NFL, and to do it at a high level. We just don't have the depth there. We really haven't talked too much about Zach Sealer this year.
He's been doing well, though, man. He's been contributing.
Under the radar,
Yeah.
right? But if you're thinking about...
He does all the dirty work.
All the dirty work, right? But if you're thinking about what comes along with the paycheck or what people expect, right, you want to see a sack. You want to see a tackle for a loss, right? And maybe you don't get double-digit sacks on the season, but every 3-4 games, go ahead and get you one, right? And I don't think we've seen that level of dominance that we saw last year being next to Wilkins.
What
which
about
is normal?
What about the rookie, Chop Robinson?
Chop, man, played good. I think this was his best game, and I was happy to see that he was able to get that run. It looks like he's learning on the job, right? He was able to get a couple of QB pressures. Let's see how many tackles he ended up with. Chop. 3 total tackles, 1 solo tackle, and he also got a hit on a quarterback. So for a guy who's coming in and just being asked to go, he's doing a great job so far. And he has opportunity, right? Agba hasn't been playing that great, so you're going to be able to get run out there. We saw Jalen Phillips get hurt. He's down for the season with the ACL injury. You're going to get opportunities there. Chubb hasn't come back yet.
We have a timeline on that?
It looks like he'll be back for the Arizona game, and that's after we come back from the bye and play Indy. So that's 3 weeks that we're hoping to see this dude in. A guy that we did see return, but didn't really have a lot of impact in the game, which I put on Instagram, which was a cool poll because a lot of people said they weren't expecting a lot. That's OBJ. Didn't really do nothing, had 2 targets. I feel like this is a dude who's like has to catch up to full speed, and I don't know how long it's going to take him to catch up to full speed. Now, granted, maybe we don't want him to catch up to full speed right now because Tua's not playing, right? And he probably has better, rapport, I guess, with Tua because they had the whole training camp together and all that shit. So it'll be interesting to see. But there's a lot of stuff that we're going to have to figure out as Dolphins fans, right? And the Dolphins in themselves for these next 2 weeks because, yeah, you get the bye week. That's great. But some of the injuries that we've gotten are in major key positions. I feel like we're missing 1 injury from the game, Joel. We had mentioned 3.
Well, Achan was the first
Achane.
one. That was the early one that we mentioned already.
Achan's concussion, right? 2 weeks to get his hair, checked out, make sure he's okay. Obviously, we know what the Dolphins' policy is when it comes to head injuries and stuff like that. So I'm sure they're going to be extra careful with this guy. But yeah, still a lot of questions. It's good that we got the win because we would have been very bleak had we been 1-4 coming back home.
I mean, let's be real. We beat one of the worst teams in football.
Yep. Two of the worst teams. We beat Jacksonville.
Those are our 2 wins. Those are our 2 wins. Are the 2 other worst teams in football. So take that with a grain of salt. But yeah, it's comforting at least to be able to get a win, and even on the road at that too. We got a road win, and it wasn't a pretty game, man. It wasn't a pretty game. So credit McDaniel, Greer still with the organization. A lot of controversy last week. Some comments that were made on the show. Hot. He's not gone yet. We get the dub. Do we got to let him go still?
I think we still have to let him go, because if you're talking about what's the better future here, right? Who has more potential to grow? The space that McDaniel has to grow as a coach is immense. He can do so many more things. He can become so much better. I think we've seen the best of Greer. I don't know how much more better he can get. Because unless he trades for a fucking top of the line quarterback or finds a quarterback in the draft that becomes, instant hit, instant Hall of Famer, I don't know how much more he can do. And maybe he's not the guy to find this one, right? Because we talked about it before. He's had plenty of opportunities. I think the naysayers or the doubters on McDaniels have to take a step back this week and say, all right, he made that adjustment, a second half adjustment, and it worked out, and he stuck with his best assets, Jalen Wright and Raheem Mostert, but he's going to have to continue to do a good job of game planning. Now you have 2 weeks to get ready for Indy. Indianapolis, right? I want to just say Indy. I don't know why I'm thinking Indiana Pacers. Fuck the Pacers. But yeah, you got 2 weeks to get ready for the Colts. How do you prepare Huntley? First and foremost, right? You got to get that guy better ASAP, much better ASAP. And how do you continue to integrate the running game into your scheme? Yeah, we know you're a passing scheme, but now you don't have that passing threat. How do you integrate the running game into that?
Not even integrate. How do you make that the focal point of the scheme? Because we have talent, man. Even with the injury to Devon Achane, we have Raheem Mostert, who's one of the best rushers, or has been one of the best rushers in the league over the last couple of years. And we have Jalen Wright, who's one of the fastest, most explosive guys coming out of the backfield today. So we need to make sure we're utilizing both those guys, not just outside, swinging it outside and trying to catch the edge, but like we did in this game, run it up the tackles, man. Trust that these guys are going to find their hole, be patient and find their hole and then explode. And that's exactly what we saw. We saw a couple of big runs, and what I mean by big runs, 10, 12, 8 to 10, 12-yard runs that led to first downs and drives that developed. Maybe they only led to 3 points, but we still saw the ball move, which has been completely irrelevant for the last couple of weeks. We've been trying to move the ball.
And if you're talking about rushing defense or total defense, Colts, one of the worst in the league. Rushing defense, currently right now, let's see, 31st in the NFL, giving up 164 yards a game.
So that should be the game plan.
That has to be the game plan. And especially with the reemergence, or I don't even want to call it reemergence, but the comeback of Raheem Mostert, right? Because last year when he came back, we obviously knew he was injured, and he came back to gut it out for the squad, right? Especially to make the playoff push and all that stuff. And he did it, right? So we love him for that. But now that he's fully healthy and fully getting the goal and fully getting all those reps, we saw what we can expect from Raheem Mostert. That dude was cutting up that defense, making powerful runs, cutting back, timing it perfect. And yeah, Jalen Wright had 1 or 2 good runs like that too. But it felt like every time Mostert had it, he was getting 8 yards, without a doubt. And he was waiting, very patient with the blocking. So I think that guy has to be the focal point. And then, like you said, let's take advantage of Jalen Wright's explosiveness, put him in there in those situations where maybe that D-line is gassed and they can't run, make a swap of defensive linemen and we catch him sleeping, and you give it to him and he explodes for 30, 40, 50 yards, right? That has to be the game plan against the Colts, because we have to win that game. We got winnable games right now, and we have to win in as many games as possible before Tua comes back to give him a sense of like, all right, the season is not a waste. We still have a shot. Let's go out there and do the damn thing.
Yeah, we have week 6 coming up now. We have the bye. Tua's still not coming back for that Indianapolis game.
Arizona game at the earliest.
We really need a win, against Indy to keep it at 500, 3-3, so that if there's a chance that Tua comes back at that point, he has a clean slate. You're 500. You're you know what I mean? You're even. We did the bare minimum while you were gone.
Right.
Now you got to make sure you're dialed. You know what I mean? Mistake free. It's really what it comes down to. If and when he comes back. But it was important yesterday. It was a big day because we were the only AFC East team that did win. Obviously we beat the Patriots, but the Jets lost their game out in London, and then the Bills just completely gave away a game against Houston.
Yep. Which, by the way, for all the shit about Tua and concussions and Achane, the Dolphins, the Bills let this dude go back out there, dog.
Controversial
as fuck, because he did get concussed and he was out. And for sure he's going to get up and say, I'm okay, and they put him back out there. Now, let's see what happens, Tuesday, right, when everybody figures out, all right, what's on the report, Is he being checked out for the concussion? Is he in the protocol? All that shit. But yeah, it was just a mismanagement of a head injury for sure, and I'm interested to see how they handle that. But in terms of how it affected the Dolphins, that door is open. That door is open to win games. That door is open for the division because the Jets are looking terrible. The Patriots, we know, are terrible. And the Bills have not looked as super dominant. They've looked dominant against us because because they own us. But guess what? They're not playing us every week. So they have to go out there and beat other teams. And for them to be, in a position where they're 3-2 and with some ugly losses to some bad teams, like, yeah, you got to kind of question them as well. Because if they're going to question us, and we're as talented on paper as they are, then for sure you have to question the Buffalo Bills and their performances. I don't believe in the Jets. That's just my opinion. I don't believe in Rodgers. I don't believe in that offense. I can tell you from a personal standpoint, because I have Breece Hall, I know that they're not trying to run the ball and they're just focusing on what Rodgers can do. And that's not going to bode well for the Jets, right? But on the other hand, when you look at the Dolphins situation and what we can do, we have that clean slate if we go out there and we beat the Colts. Because we're 3-3, there's 10 games left in the season, and Tua's back. Healthy, with enough tape on this team, how they're playing right now, position by position by position, for him to go out here and say, all right, I have all this data. Now I know how to operate this data to do the most that I can do to win the game without possibly risking myself being injured again. Because there's one thing that Tua cannot do when he comes back, and that's force shit. Force a throw, force a run, force anything.
He's got to be mistake-free.
You got to be mistake-free, and you got to be careful. And you got to let the defense do the work for you. Yeah, we'll be able to score points, but at the end of the day, we're probably going to rely on this defense to come up with a stop. Because it's what it's come down to. The 2 games that we've won has come down to that.
But looking at the team and looking at through 5 weeks, overall, obviously we lose Tua, and that's a big part of it. But damn, dog, we have a good defense as a unit altogether. Even though we've lost pieces, we just lost Jalen Phillips, we just lost Holland. You know what I mean? We've lost pieces. Guys step up. The scheme works. Our playmakers make plays when when we need them to, for the most part.
Right.
You know what I mean? And then offensively, we got playmakers.
12 games.
So if we can just manage the game better, which McDaniels did this week against New England, but if he can do that moving forward and manage the game better and just utilize the assets better, I know that's easier said than done.
Right.
When Tua comes back, it shouldn't be something that he needs to force. It should be, okay, the defense is going to keep us in this game. Offensively, let's run the ball. And the times we do need to make a throw, we're confident that Tua can make the play and pick up the yardage that we need him to. But let's focus on the run.
It's so simple, Joel. All you have to do is look at the box score for this week specifically. 32 carries between Mostert and Jalen Wright.
Yep.
32 carries, dog. Go back and look at when any combination of running backs got 32 carries, dog, unless it was an A-Chan crazy game.
But I think Huntley also had 31 attempts passing.
Way too many, in my opinion, right?
I agree.
Way too many. And by way too many, probably 6 too many. Where we should be giving those handoffs to
Should
either
have been 25 and 38.
Something like that, where maybe Hill gets another go around. We give a Waddle one, you know what I mean? Like
Huntley rushes one, a quarterback draw.
Huntley, something. Be smart. Rely on the running game. You believe in this offensive line so much, go out there and do your thing. Go out there and do your thing.
Yeah.
The
bye week's big for us, man.
The bye week is huge. We're going to need people to get healthy quick. We're going to have to find out the status of Javon Holland and whether or not he plans on playing in that Colts game, right? Because I think we're going to need him. Anthony Flacco is a real deep threat.
Joe Flacco?
Yeah.
You said Anthony Flacco?
No. I was going to say Anthony Richardson, but I corrected myself. He's not the quarterback right now.
No, they're having their own issues. Jonathan Taylor is also having some injuries and stuff. And like you said, we can exploit their weakness, which is the run stop.
Game.
So we can win that game. We can win that game. McDaniels has 2 weeks to game plan. We got 2 weeks to get football healthy.
Yep.
Or at least fill in the blanks. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So
Let's see.
Hey, I'm just glad we got a win, man.
We got to win, bro. It felt good to get it.
Smile about.
It felt good to get it, bro.
Maybe not a smile. Maybe a smirk. Maybe just a slight.
No, coño, it's not even a smirk. It's like, all right, we got this. Let's go. On to the next one. You forget about everything because we said it at the top of the show, and we're going to say it to close the show. It was a win. It wasn't the prettiest of win, but right now, for this team, the only thing that matters is adding a 1 to that win category every week. Every week.
Facts.
You know? And look, this week is a big week for the Dolphins, and we're not even playing in it, right? We got Monday Night Football. It's Buffalo versus Jets. Big game. Both teams coming off a loss. Obviously, whoever loses this game is taking a big step back in the AFC East race. So,
back or forward?
Back. You know, if you lose this game. No, I said if you lose this game.
Oh.
That's twice, dog.
You got me.
I got you. But
I'm
yeah.
a little dyslexic, dog. Back is front, front is back. You know this.
Yeah, I know. But yeah, it's going to be interesting. And I really hope that McDaniels takes heed to what we've been saying on this show and what everybody's saying on Twitter and what all the writers are writing about and what everybody's saying on ESPN. Use your talents. Yeah, Waddle and Hill are the big money dudes, but you know what? If we don't have our main guy there to throw him the ball, we need to use our other assets and try to win games in the meantime. So
adapt, readapt.
And that goes for you guys as well. You guys got to adapt, man, as Dolphins fans. I think we set the bar, a little bit way too high. Let's bring it back down, deal with the reality of the situation, and stay safe while we wait for football to come back in 2 weeks. What you guys got to do on your behalf is make sure you're telling a friend.
To tell a friend.
To tell another friend.
To tell everybody they know.
To tell everybody they know about this Dolphins podcast, OnlyFans. We coming to you live, baby, every post game. And we're going to bring you this insider from the fans' perspective every single week for this Dolphins football season, whether it's a great one or a bad one. Until next time, it's your boy Soap.
Peace.